my idea was I want to start a notebook company. Okay. And I remember this clearly because I presented this to my thesis teacher and he was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
The best thing you can do when you don't have money is learn more skills.
Creativity the name is a complete misnomer. It should not be called creativity because you're not actually creating. You're just combining. That's all it is.
Entrepreneurship is that one type of role and thing that requires you to stack skills.
Oh, you're going to like this. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're in the studio. Thursday, we're remote. Friday, we no longer work. We have a 4-day work week. Yeah.
No way. When you know that you need to get something done, you'll figure out a way to get it done. Joey, how's it going, man? How are you?
Mark, what's up, dude? I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I'm really, really stoked to have you on here. And for everyone listening today, we have Joey Cofone. Joey is the founder of Bear and Fig, and we're going to dive into a little bit of his story and how he's gotten to where he's at and some of the cool things he's doing right now in the future. So Joey, do you want to start off in giving us a little background on you, Bear and Fig, and how you got started in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, man. It would be my pleasure. So, hi, everybody. My name is Joey Cofone. I am an entrepreneur and a newly minted author. We'll get into that. I founded Bear and Fig, a company that makes tools to help you do your best thinking. Been doing that for 10 years. And I recently wrote The Laws of Creativity, a book that teaches you how to master your ideas. So I'm a designer under the hood, and essentially I've designed and art directed over 100 products from zero, from the idea all the way to launch in the consumer's hands. And I would say in a nutshell, my work is all about helping people turn their ideas into reality. So whether it's the company that helps you do your best thinking with these tools or the book that helps you master your ideas, my goal is to help you express yourself with your ideas much better. And essentially, how did I start Bear and Fig? My goodness. So it was a roundabout manner that I found myself in art school in New York City at the School of Visual Arts, SVA, which for people who don't know SVA, because I did not when I went, SVA is what Harvard is to business. SVA is to design, basically, and I had no clue, which is cool, in retrospect, but I kind of got myself in there through sheer luck. And anyway, I'm in design school and enjoying the hell out of it, and I noticed that all my fellow students have two tools. Mark, you probably have these two tools. I mean, people listening, you've got a laptop and a notebook, okay?
Yep. Been using the same notebook for 10 years now.
Oh, dude. There you go, man. There's loyalty, especially, yes, there's absolute loyalty. So I'm looking around at art school students, and everyone has the same laptop, but the notebooks are all different. So it's like MacBooks just across the board, and notebooks, different brands, sizes, and everything. And so I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Why is there ubiquity in one tool and not in the other? So, this bothered the hell out of me for years. I was like a freshman. And it wasn't until my senior year that I was probably expressing my discontent for like the thousandth time to a buddy of mine named Adam. And he was like, dude, you need to either make this or shut the hell up about it. So anyway, we put it on Kickstarter. We were looking for 15 grand. We did 168. This is in 2013 before Kickstarter was big. And boom, fast forward. We got funded. Here we are now with like 70 products, 80 countries. We make a lot more than notebooks.
That's awesome. And so I'm curious, were you still in school when you started the idea for Bear and Fig?
That's a great question, man. Nobody asks that. So designers have a thesis, which is to create a really robust something. Okay, you get to come up with what it is. Some people are like, I'm going to write a book. Some people will rebrand Target. And my idea was I want to start a notebook company. Okay, and I remember this clearly because I presented this to my thesis teacher, and he was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. So basically he shot it down like with a bazooka.
Well, I have to say, if a college professor tells you it's a dumb idea on entrepreneurship, it's probably a good idea.
Right. So he didn't even ask, like, hey, man, tell me why you think that. He was just like, that sucks. So I did it on my own, and instead my thesis was I whipped up something in like a week and just moved on. But yeah, I had it. I had it. I started in school and kind of like rolled out of school, continuing it.
That's awesome. So did was this kind of your first thing out of school? Were you freelancing, doing design work for other companies too, and kind of doing it on the side?
Yeah, I kind of had a circuitous journey here. So there's actually like a prequel to this story, which is I originally went to college for 4 years for literature and philosophy, and I did it all. It was great. I 4 years studying the greatest stories and the greatest ideas, right, from the greatest thinkers in history. It was like awesome. But then I graduated. Well, I wrapped up, I should say, during the financial crisis of 2009. So there were no jobs already. So you imagine, like, for literature and philosophy majors, like, there's nothing.
I graduated in 2009, 2010 from school too. So I know the exact same feeling you were going through. Yeah.
What a crappy start for us. Um, anyway, I finagled my. I realized if I tried to push that, there would be a lot of suffering. And not that it would be bad, but I was like, screw it. I didn't care back then. I did not give a crap about anything. So I finagled my way back into design school by using my high school portfolio that I had made and never used. And I ended up taking all those ideas and putting them into design. So I actually went to school for 8 years straight, including summers, because I needed a place to live every year. So when I was on my seventh year of college, I started freelancing. To answer your question, so I had been freelancing like as a junior, but what would that be? I was like 25 by then. So I kind of just worked and finished school and started this business, and it was all like meshed together.
Cool. That's sick. And so, was there a point of starting Bear and Fig where you said, "Hey, I'm finally making enough money, like I can stop doing other freelance work"?
I actually, I don't recommend what I did, but which I stopped working, dropped all clients, handed them off, and I did that in May of 2013. And I basically was like, I have 5 months, 6 months of cash. I will either go broke or make this work in 6 months. And we were able to do it. We launched the Kickstarter in like September. Like I just made it. So I dropped it because I knew, for me, and it's different for everyone, but for me, I needed that fire to say, like, you are going to lose your home if your dumbass doesn't follow through on this all the way. And so that's what I did.
For sure, one of my mentors calls it positive
Yes,
pressure. It's like when you know that you need to get something done, you'll figure out a way to get it done and to make it work.
exactly. Exactly. And it really did work. But dude, I have a question for you. So you wrapped up school during this whole financial crisis. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so it's actually really interesting that you started Bear and Fig kind of the same, around the same time, or at least had the idea for it. So for me, I was when I was in school, I was working all the time. So when I started school, I actually wanted to be a producer in like live entertainment production. So I worked in entertainment production, then I ended up working for event production, event experiential marketing agencies, and got into the event marketing side of things. But at the same time, I knew I wanted to start my own business, and I thought I wanted to get into like starting an event company, like a production company. And I had all these ideas and was trying to hustle deals in schools and to do some event production work. But I realized like it's super capital intensive. It's going to be really tough to get this done. No one in the industry really likes it. So at the same time, I was working for a couple of wineries up in San Luis Obispo, and like running the tasting room at a winery in downtown Paso Robles. And I realized all of these wineries had wine clubs, and everyone's like trying to pitch their wine club, and I'm like, no one needs all these wine club memberships. Like no one needs to be spending the equivalent of like owning a Ferrari on a monthly subscriptions, right? Like a couple hundred here, hundred here, couple hundred here. And I was like, you know what? But everyone wants like good, unique wines because at the time, like it was really tough to find like good boutique wines at affordable prices, like out of wine country, you know? So I had this idea to create this boutique wine club. And that's actually through my senior project. I started framing this idea and coming up with it. And then my senior year, I found an investor partner. And then we went on and started Cal Coast Wine Club, which was my first e-commerce venture, and ran that for 5 years from 2010 to 2015. And yeah, I was moonlighting the whole time. I lived at my parents for a good portion of that time. We had an office in San Pedro, California, down next to the port of LA, office warehouse. I would package orders in the morning, and then I would run ads and I would do, customer support and, get emails ready in the evenings, do website stuff. So I was always working and hustling. And it got to a point where I realized like the things I was seeing and doing with other clients with like a new venture criteria, my business did not fit them. Wine was super expensive to ship. It had super low margin. It was very commoditized, and it was just tough to grow. At the same time, I had a partner that is great and I love him to death, but he just really didn't understand customer acquisition. And that became very challenging to actually grow it. And it's surprisingly, like Club Dub started at the same time that we did out of a small office in Colorado, and they raised a lot of money and were able to grow into a, multi-million, now over $1 billion business. But, just skills that we didn't have or think about doing at the time was raising a bunch of money. But yeah, that's a little bit of my background.
Yeah, no, that's super cool, man. I mean, and to do that right out of school, it's like you're not, at that age, personally, you're not there to succeed. That is like, sure, that, you hope it happens, but you're there to learn, at like 22, 23, 24, 25. And it sounds like that's exactly what you were doing.
Yep. And what I've realized through entrepreneurship and like starting multiple companies over the last 10 years is the best thing you can do when you don't have money is learn more skills. Like straight up learn different skills. That's the only way that you're going to grow. Like working for someone is only going to get you so far before you need to invest in acquiring more skills. Whether it's paying for those skills, getting into programs, doing whatever it is, like spending money and joining masterminds and getting coaches and having mentors has been the best money I have ever spent. And it's an ungodly amount of money, but it's helped me grow. It's helped me grow mentally, physically, emotionally. And really, I feel like it helps you put in those reps when it comes to actually growing your business over time.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. I'm going to segue to the book I just wrote in reaction.
Yeah. Let's hear more about the book. Yeah.
Reaction to this, but we'll kind of probably get back to why I wrote the book. But there's 3 parts to this book called The Laws of Creativity that I wrote. And there's part 1 is the how to think creative. Part 2 is the creative process. And part 3 is how to rise above the rest. And there's a chapter, there's like a host of chapters that I wrote in reaction to working with some of the best, James Clear, Roxane Gay, Netflix, and just so many incredible entrepreneurs and creators. And you start to realize there's patterns. And hearing you speak about this reminded me of one of my favorite laws is the law of growth. And it essentially says learning has no limits. Don't be content to master one skill and neglect others. Without diversification, your strengths turn to weaknesses. You're a student for life. And I completely agree with you in that, like, if you reach a dead end, just go learn something new. And the information is not additive, it's multiplicative. It's exponential. Because you say 5 things and you add one thing to it, you're not like adding one thing to the mesh and making it 6. You're adding one that relates to each, and it just becomes like, I suck at math, but it's like 10 now, and so on and so forth.
No, no, absolutely. And they all, when you have these, when you can stack skills together, it multiplies. It's not like addition. It actually is a multiplier when you can combine all these things, because now you have all these skills at the same time that you can use to go a lot faster than you could without them. And I'll bring this back to one thing. I remember since we were talking about being in school, I remember being like super frustrated in school, like just talking with my dad one weekend and being like, you know what? I just want to go to work. Like, I don't even really care about school anymore. Like, I'm just frustrated. I put in a lot of work into school, but I was not that great of a student. Like, I would be the one in the library that would teach the 4 or 5 other classmates that didn't go to class, like how to do something. And then they would do better on an exam than me. But I remember my dad told me, he was like, it always stuck with me. He said, he's like, listen, regardless if you're in school or not, you're always going to be learning. Don't think that you're just going to stop and do stuff. And that always stuck with me. And as I got into building my own business and growing, entrepreneurship is it's that one type of role and thing that requires you to stack skills, and to become a high performer. It goes back to like being a professional athlete. If you're a swimmer, you just don't swim, right? If you're a runner, you just don't run. You cross train, you do other things. You focus on your nutrition, you focus on stretching, you focus on weightlifting, right? You focus on being mentally tough. And it goes the same for anything that you're in. You need to stack those skills to be a peak performer. Yeah. Yeah. So I got another question for you. Like, Joey, what do you do to keep yourself fresh when it comes to creativity?
Good question. It's thankfully it's a perfect segue. So it is learning. Yeah, I find that I don't have to worry so much about being creative or thinking creatively if I just set the stage for it, right? So essentially, I read all the time. I'm constantly trying to push myself. I'm sure you're familiar with intentional practice, right? I have a law in the book called the law of intention, which is similar, and it adds to that, and it tells some stories and everything. But I have like I would say, is a quadfecta even a word? There's a quadfecta. It's like read, meditate, exercise, and then there's a fourth one that is I call practice. And so every day I intentionally learn, and in 10 minutes, how can I learn something brand new? And so sometimes it's for programming. I program every day where I really focus on that. Sometimes it's playing the trumpet. I'm terrible at music, and so it's a great way to feel extremely uncomfortable. For example, when I play the trumpet, which I'm just bad at, and that's great. Not only does it really push me to get uncomfortable, it helps me recognize what discomfort feels like, what I'm really good at, because it puts into perspective all the other skills that I have no discomfort at all. And so it grounds the hell out of me by doing this thing privately. That I'm not going out to make money playing the trumpet. It's not one of the skills I expect to really create the mesh of stuff that I'll ever build a business around. But it empowers everything so strongly. And so basically, just constant learning is just constant data that helps me be creative. Because in my mind, creativity is just very simply the practice of ideas. And when you put that into action, it's just self-expression. That's it. It's super simple. And why does learning truly help is because creativity, which I want to tell you, I'll get back to this on why creativity is important, but to answer this question, creativity the name is a complete misnomer. It should not be called creativity because you're not actually creating. You're just combining. That's all it is. Like an iPhone is just a computer and a phone. Tesla, cars. Right. It's just batteries in cars. We're constantly just combining things as they develop into new things to develop, and that's just how it goes. So when you learn a lot, you all of a sudden have all these little building blocks where you can combine and then, be more creative.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like no one ever comes up with great ideas by just staying in a silo and not being exposed to things. The most creative people are well traveled. They've experienced a lot of things. They've read a lot of things. They've done a lot of things. That creativity fosters along the way. Yeah.
But I do want to touch on why creativity matters because I think people have it all wrong. I think I know at this point creativity. People think it's something that only the pros have, designers or writers or illustrators or sculptors, and it frustrates me because writing this book and even before, I would say, "Hey, do you think you're creative?" And people would always say, "No." But the truth is that you are, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here, or like I'm not trying to paint like a woo-woo picture. NASA, the company that puts the organization that puts people in space, that is accurate down to the millimeter light years away, they did a study and they found that 98%, I love this, they found 98% of kids at age 5 are creative genius level. Okay? NASA. This is not some random, place doing a study for someone else's benefit. What's really interesting is that by adulthood, the number reduces. What do you think it reduces to? What percent? Just throw a guess.
I would say maybe 5, 10%.
Close. That's a good guess. You're the closest so far. 2%.
2%. Oh my God.
It goes from 98 to 2. That's like that's not an accident. That's like a legitimate systemic failure. Okay? Kids are creative geniuses. We're creative geniuses, and then we lose it.
We start off as being a creative genius and then we slowly lose it. Or we don't lose it slowly, we lose it throughout our childhood and in adulthood.
Guaranteed. When you go from 98 to 2, that's what it's called, a guarantee. Like, it's pretty much certain. And so I wrote The Laws of Creativity to try to not teach you, because you already knew it at one point, to help you remember what you knew as a kid. So everything in the book should be familiar in like a deep sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's insane. That I did not know that. That's nuts.
Yeah. When I discovered that single stat, so someone at Baron Fig, we were working together on all this stuff, and she's like, "You're not going to believe this," and she like sent it to me, over Basecamp, and I clicked and read it, and I actually like stood up at my desk, and I was like, "Holy shit! This is the heart of the book," and it is now. It's become like the cornerstone of what I'm trying to do. Is you knew it, and now you're going to remember it. It's powerful stuff.
That's awesome. And I'm curious, what got you to want to become an author and to write this book?
Well, I thought I was going to be an author my whole life. I've written all the time. Like I thought I grew up writing. I went to be an English major and a philosophy major, thinking I was going to be a writer, and life didn't go that way. And my kind of life philosophy is not to fight what happens, not to like push against what the world is telling you to do, not in a way where I believe fate or anything. I just think sometimes opportunities present themselves, so take advantage. And design presented itself, and I took advantage. But I always knew that I wanted to write this book. And lo and behold, when the pandemic started and we're all quarantined, I'm talking about it at the dinner table, and my wife is like, "If you don't write this now, you are never going to write this book." So then I did.
That's awesome. And I'm curious, like, what are some of the things that you see on the horizon with the book? Like, what do you think you might be writing a series on them on creativity? Is it anything anything else you want to do with that?
So I wrote this book in a way that's counter to a lot of the knowledge out there on how someone who wants to write books should write a book. What do I mean by that? Is If I wanted to be a professional author, I would take ideas individually and write books on them, and I'd make a ton of money. I'd have like multiple books and sell. But because I have Baron Fig, I don't need to do that. It's kind of like Ray Dalio, right? He wrote Principles, and he's put like every goddamn thing he could in there because he's like, I'm not here to make a whole ton of books and make money.
I don't need to be a New York Times bestselling author that needs to roll out a new book every year and do another tour. Yeah.
Right. So what I did is I put all of it in one book. So you have part 1, 2, and 3 of the mindset, the process, and excellence. And it's like this book, for better or for worse, and then by worse I mean like when I come on interviews like this, I have a whole lot of stuff I'm supposed to remember to actually answer because the book is dense. There's 39 laws. Each one you can find entire books written about. There's books out there about failure, about iteration, about writer's block and resistance, about inspiration and all sorts of stuff that I could have literally almost written 39 books. But instead, what I thought was really useful was, number one, is dispelling this BS about what creativity is, that pros do it, that it's got to be visually, it has to look like it's doodles and stuff. You know, all these stupid ass creative brands out there where they're like kids drawings. Like that's perpetuating some myth that it's magical or that it's childlike or for a certain demographic. It's absolutely not. And the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to provide the first holistic view of creativity. So how does the thinking affect the process, and how do you take the process and the thinking and really rise to excellence? And you have to cover all of it together in a unified text. And so that was, and I have no desire to write another book at the moment. Like I have other books that I could write, but like I'm cool. Like this is not, Baron Fig is where I make my money. Baron Fig and making things is what I love. This book just happened to come to life because of a series of events, creating Baron Fig, the pandemic, and so on.
Nice. So let's go back to Baron Fig for a moment and like tell us like a little about where you guys are at now as a company, like where are you guys going, and maybe what's on the horizon.
Yeah, so Baron Fig originally started with one notebook, one size, a couple paper types, and that was it. It's like all you could buy. Now then we moved out to pens, and people, you're gonna love this. People were like, "Yo, dude, you can't make pens. You're the notebook company." So then we make a pen. We call it the Squire pen. Turns out people are buying it just as much. New York Magazine rated it #1 out of 100 pens that they tested. It like went gangbusters. It, depending on how you enter Baron Fig now, you could say that you're the pen company or the notebook company. So then we decided to branch out into fabrics to make cases and other tools. And again, I got people saying, "Yo, dude, you're just the notebook and pens. Like, why would you go do the stuff you don't know?" And again, now we see so many. Our primary product, the starter kit, aka the idea tool set, sells gangbusters, man. Like if you want to make ideas and you want to place a home for it, you buy the case, the pen, and the notebook, and it's so simple and limited and private and direct, and it's the way to go. And then we've just grown. We just keep putting these circles around our product lines. Then we did bags to hold all that stuff, like a backpack. I've got our latest bag here, which released just a few weeks ago. Yeah, man, I could send you one of these for sure. It's called the Venture. It actually has, dude, it has, I'm holding it up, but you guys out there can't see it. It's a black bag. I have on mine a electric orange and a bright blue strap. So the straps are actually modular. I looked at the bag and I was like, yo, why don't we make a backpack straps like shoes have sneakers where you could change the shoelaces, right? And so you could just customize it and just have a ton of fun with different straps. And I mean, that's been a huge hit, man. People are buying multiple straps and like swapping them out. Like, we don't sell those two colors together, but you can mix and match. And So long story short is we made these tools to help you do your best thinking. Next year, I haven't said this to anyone yet. You're the first. Next year, we're going to start not only helping you do your best thinking, but help you get even more and better ideas. That's all I can say for now, because I don't want to get ahead of myself. We haven't finalized anything, but I wanna be there, like the book is holistic in helping you master ideas. I want to help you bring your ideas to life in a few different ways.
Love it, man. That's so cool. And with where you guys are at right now as a company, do you have any, like is Barron's Thing something you want to continue to run for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Are you thinking you might sell it one day? I'm just curious, like I love when I talk with founders like you that have been actually operating for years now. It's not like you guys have been doing this for 2 or 3 years and getting momentum. Like you guys have been around multiple product lines, had some success. Where do you see yourself going in the future? Is it getting an exit? Is it building out new product categories? Where do you see?
Yeah, great question. It's hard to say because I'm not going to turn down, what do they say in The Godfather, an offer you can't refuse or something. But what's really important to me is having a place where I can create. I mean, I'm a designer, not a business. I don't have a business background, right? I had to pick that up and learn that to run this company. And so my primary goal has actually been, how can I create a place in which I could just make as much cool stuff as I want and have that fund my living. Do you know what I mean? So it really depends on what could happen. I mean, I ideally like to risk the business. Like, I love to do stuff that makes people shake a little bit, behind the scenes. And, we all talk about it. But like making a pen, right? We put a shit ton of money into that. And, back then we didn't know if it was going to work. And we've just done that over and over. And that's how it stays fresh. So to answer your question as simply as possible, I could go either way. I think as long as I am having fun, it almost doesn't matter to me, to be honest.
I think that's the best. That's how you know you're in the best place possible, right? When you're waking up every day and you're still able to create. And it brings another question for you too, is with everything that you're doing now, are you still pretty involved in the product design process? Do you have a product team that you work with? Are you the product team? Just curious how you guys are structured internally.
Yeah, good question. Well, like I said, I'm a designer, and so part of why I've built this company and continue to do it is that I get to make the stuff. So myself with a design background and our COO, Jay Desai, who's a mechanical engineer and is incredible at bringing things to life. Him and I together as a duo, we design all the new products and all the new forms. So what I mean by new forms is when we design the pen the first time, that was us. And then when we make limited editions, we get to hand that off to our design team, which has had some incredible talent over the years. Right now, Laura is our senior designer who has just made some of my favorite limited editions to date. And so we're able to share the responsibility, but we still build the fundamental forms the first time. And I really enjoy that.
Cool. And I'm curious, how are you guys set up? Do you guys have an office in New York? Are you guys full remote?
Yeah. We have a studio, we call it. Studio Fig in Long Island City, which is Queens. It's like we're literally a few blocks from the river, and then there's Manhattan. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's not the same as Long Island. It's a really crappy name for a location, Long Island City. But if you look on the map, we're basically every day we get to see the New York City skyline out the window. It's really beautiful. And so at the studio, we do a lot of collaboration in person. The pandemic was rough, of course. For most people it was rough. for us, I designed the business around in-person collaboration, and I'm not a fan of remote, not because of trust issues or inefficiency or anything. I really just think that when you're doing a creative act, being in person allows for the highest probability of a good outcome. And so when you design the business around that, and anyway, but we're like, what are we now? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Oh, you're gonna like this. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're in the studio. Thursday, we're remote. Friday, we no longer work. We have a 4-day work week. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
4-day work week. Wow.
Yeah, we've been doing that since last September. So it's officially a year as of like this week or last week.
Wow.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
So tell us about that, because I think a lot of people have thought about going to a 4-day work week, but how are you guys managing that? Maybe tell us what it's been like, because that's a solid commitment. Been almost a full year, right?
Yes, yeah. It's not an experiment at this point. So first of all, when we presented it, everything at Baron Fig that we've done over the years with our team has always been presented as an experiment up front. Hey, we're trying this thing. If it works, we'll stick with it, and if it doesn't, we won't. Here's what it looks like if it would work. Here's what it looks like if we think it's a failure. Cool, let's all just give it a shot. And the 4-day work week was one of those. We're like, hey, everyone, from September to December, the end of the year, for what is that, 4 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 months. We are going to have a 4-day work week, and we'll see how it goes. And if we're all stressed and crunched, we're not going to continue in January. And if we manage and we adjust, then we will. Like, straight up, I want this. I'm open with my team. I want more days off. I want to work less, and I want you guys to have the same thing I want. Like, you can have it too. However, we have to realistically see if it's functional for our business. So, presented it that way. It went great. We learned a bunch of lessons. We adjusted. I would say, we work 80%, right, of the week, 4 out of the 5 days, and we get 98% done. I feel like there's like a 2%, like almost invisible bit that we don't do, but it's effectively zero. We're able to do the same thing. For anyone out there considering it, I'll say 2 things. Number 1, you could go to my LinkedIn, Joey Cofone, and I have a longer post if you're interested.
And we'll put a link to that post down in the show notes as well, along with everything else of the book. Yeah.
Cool. And second thing, the only thing we learned to really be diligent about is do not have 2 3-day weeks in a row. So normal weeks are 4. If there's a holiday, then there's 3. Okay? If for some reason we have 2 of those weeks back to back, it's a nightmare. It's crunch. We really feel the stress of it. However, if it's
would you yeah, sorry for interrupting you, but I'm curious, like, let's say we've got Memorial Day weekend, like, or Labor Day weekend, right? We just had Labor Day weekend the other week. Like, how do you guys roll into the next week? Would you still take Friday off, or would you have had the Friday off the day before too?
Correct. So because Monday's Labor Day, so the previous week would be 4 days. The following week would be Labor Day week, would be 3 days, just Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then we go back to 4. It's totally fine.
Then you go back to 4, but you make sure there's not any back-to-back holidays with an issue there.
Correct. So when there's a 3-day week, as long as it's not 2 of them together, you're easily able, with just like relatively simple planning, able to pull a couple of things forward, push a couple of things back. You get the whole team to say, hey, everybody cool. Like 2 weeks before, I always tell everybody, now's the time you start looking at your schedule, push and pull. It's your fault if you're stressed.
It's like you're going on vacation before, like you're going to be gone for 2 weeks. Like,
same.
Everyone always is, I don't know about you, but when I know I'm going on vacation or when I'm going on a trip, I'm always way more productive. The 5 to 6 business days before I leave on that trip, because I'm anticipating that I need to get things done and I don't want to have to deal with it when I'm gone.
Absolutely. So long story short, we've kept it. It's great. Don't have 2 3 day weeks back to back. And now the number of days off we have a year, when you do the when you count every Friday, when you count the days we give people off, it's 95 days a year people have off. So it's like 3 months off every year when you add it all up. Yeah, it's nuts. It's bonkers. And we're able to run totally fine. And I guess if you're interested, you interested in this business? Some business thoughts from a designer. Okay. The other thought is we've run the company based on the 80-20 principle. For people out there who don't know, it says that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. So way back in 2013, I hypothesized it with my co-founder at the time, and I said, "Yo, dude, what if we just did the 20% and we're okay with the 80%, and we just like screw it, like we're just gonna go at this speed, and like, forget the little 20% at the top that takes the extra 80% to do," and that has made this marathon of running a business so much better. We just don't try to do everything.
For sure. And I'm curious, like, how has that been when it comes to attracting talent? Like, I'm sure that's probably a really compelling like statement to be making. We have 4-day work weeks, right? You're going to get 95 days off a year. Like, how is that when it comes to inbound hiring for a new position?
It's like the easiest thing in the world. For anyone out there considering it, do it now before everyone is doing it, and then you'll reap the benefits. In addition, the benefits like you're mentioning now, Mark, about talent acquisition, on top of the benefits of just like less stress.
That's so cool. And I'm curious, just another thing, how have you found that there's specific personalities of employees that you're like character traits that you're looking for in people that potentially are going to be able to really perform during those core 4 days of the week versus people that might be just trying to slack off a little, need a little bit more time, need a little bit more guidance? Like, I'll tell you, on our team, like we're full remote, and that's just because when COVID happened, we had an office down here in Santa Ana, California, and then we were opening up a production studio in LA. We were going to have like a production studio that we could rent out for shoots, because we do some content work for clients as well. And then we were going to have a bullpen office, and then everything happened. We opened an office in Ukraine 3 weeks before COVID started. And so we just went full remote. And some of the character traits that we look for when we're hiring is like people that can really operate on their own, and they don't need to be babysat. So I'm curious if it's the same for you guys when it comes to the 4-day work week.
Yeah, self-governance is a huge one. We were prioritizing that from day one, like 2013, just to try to get an independent thinking team. I will say that I'm not. I have, unlike my 4-day work week and my 80-20, in terms of hiring, I would say that I have not had the volume to master that. Unfortunately, I still find it challenging. It's people do a pretty damn good job quite often of talking a big game in an interview, and it's a little hard to suss out, just how much of that is going to actually translate. And I have no doubt that there are people out there, hiring managers, who will be far better at identifying those things than I am at the moment. But existing at Baron Fig is not, you don't get a pass. We've fired more people than we've hired. And we really try to find the right person, because once we get the right person, it's I'm sure a lot of people out there know, it just makes everything so easy, really. Just get the right players in the right positions.
The right players in the right positions, you need less people.
Yeah. And so we're not afraid to hire and fire. And I'm very open with people about that fact. Like, I'm not trying to trick them. I'm like, it's hard for me to tell. I want you to succeed. Like, clearly I don't have it out for you. I want to hire you and for you to kick ass and for us to move on. Like, I try my damnedest every time with every employee that Baron Fig has ever had to give them, every resource to succeed. But, just like, in a sports team, not every player is a good fit for the starting lineup, and it just is what it is.
No, I hear you. What are some character traits that you look for in employees when you're hiring for Baron Fig?
Yeah, self-governance is number one, really, and that is the hardest, but I think the most important. And number two is, like, do they understand creativity on some level? Like, are they creative? And I am a good, unlike the other one, the previous one, I am a good measure after a conversation to say, like, how creative someone probably is. And creativity is essentially the ability to ideate, to endure some failure, to think outside the box a little bit, to not be afraid to express themselves, right? These are all easy things in my mind to discover in a conversation. And if we get that right, it becomes, even for people who don't immediately fit well in terms of what we need, those people are able to learn very quickly. They're able to not beat themselves up when they don't get it right. They're able to speak up and say, hey, Joey, I don't understand, or hey, Joey, I think you're doing this wrong. Here's how I would do it. Love that. So, like, a creative mindset, I think, is top, aside from being independent.
Someone that's going to create a little, and I think this is a big thing in the creative process that we actually see on the agency side of things, because primarily, like, we're doing strategy and planning, so we're coming up with ideas for campaigns or writing copy. We do design work. In a nutshell, that's what we do. Like, we put together all those things to help make brands more money. And I always tell clients, like, if we're hitting a little resistance, which we're challenging you, you're challenging us, that's actually a good thing, because that means we're trying to push things forward. If it's way too easy, right, flowing back and forth, it probably means we're not pushing things forward enough.
I agree. It's like, imagine the idea is a block of marble, and together you're you're chipping away at it, and you need that pressure and that resistance and fight through it to come out with something that you've crafted together that's beautiful. Because if it's too easy, it's probably just, you probably just chiseled away a big old stone. And
yeah, it's probably not that good if it's too easy.
Yeah, it's just stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not enough thought put into something if it's too easy to get across the board. Yeah. Vice versa too. There is a time where you're just like hitting a brick wall on a brick wall. It's just super challenging. So I think it's a fine balance between both sides.
It is a fine line.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Joey, I know we're wrapping up on time, but is there anything else that you wanted to maybe talk about your book or Baron Fig in general, and in regards to how people might be able to get in touch with you if they want to learn more about it?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend, if you don't think you're creative, read this book, even more so than if you do think you're creative. And you can check it out at joeycofone.com/book. You'll be able to go click a few different directions to buy from.
And we'll have that link in the show notes as well for everyone.
Yep. And also check out Baron Fig at baronfig.com. We're doing a lot of fun stuff over there. You can also pick up the book there. And finally, always love to connect on Instagram and Twitter at Joey Cofone. Tell me what you're up to, what you're working on. Love interesting ideas. If you disagree with me, that's always my favorite. So I'd love to hear from you.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Joey. This has been great. I'm so stoked to have you on. And thanks for sharing everything that you had. I mean, it's awesome to see what you've built with Baron Fig and how you're now bringing that creativity forward with the book. So it's been great.
Mark, thank you, man. What a pleasure. I love when the conversation goes in directions that, are not expected. Just because I'm releasing a book doesn't mean we need to talk about the book the whole time. And I love where it went. So thank you for the conversation. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Awesome. Thanks, Joey.